Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. So something that's happened right now. I made a video on GoPro, and then I put the video was working, everything was fine, and I put the CD in my computer, and the videos were gone. So I had to record again because I have to do this every single day. So at this time, this is the second video I'm recording. Again, today was fantastic. I woke up early in the morning, did some breakfast, took a shower, got the bus, went to school, and I was able to attend two conferences on a webinar. One webinar was about the energy, so I was able to analyze the energy, and I was able to understand the investments. It was a venture capital, and there were different companies that were coming in and pitching their products. And today, all companies were mostly energy related, carbon footprint and research and all those things. So I was able to do my emails. I did able to answer some emails. I did some tasks, some work, some jobs, some LinkedIn connections, and then I attended other meetings that I had with my other stuff that I was supposed to do, and then I had school today in the evening. So what I want to talk about today is a RJF Kennedy Jr. testimony. He was testifying before Senate, and he was asked many questions, but a few questions that stood out to me was two. One was the Medicare, another one was the Build Back Better, beautiful bill plan. So he was asked on about the rural America. If you know, last week I made a video. When I make these videos, it's because I make videos about the things that are happening in the United States, and I don't make it fancy. I don't make it sound like commercial. I don't make them sound like, like I'm trying to make money, I'm trying to get paid, anything like that. I'm not trying to get famous. It's because these things are happening. These things are real, and politicians, policymakers, they're thinking about them. So he made a couple key points, but before I make those points, I want to give an overview of who is RF Jeff Kennedy Jr. and where he's coming from. So Jeff Kennedy is known to have, Jeff Kennedy Jr., he has a history of drug abuse. He have used drugs in the past. He had had trouble. I think he has been to jail one time, I believe. Many things have happened to him, but he was educated, he's smart, he went to go to school, and then in 2024 he became anti-vaccine. 2020 during COVID, he became anti-vaccine. He was very he has conspiracy theories. He believed that the vaccine was a hoax, the microchip, those things that he believes in, and he became really famous. He was critical of the mandates and Joe Biden's COVID mandates and COVID policies. And in 2024, he was able to run as an independent. And then, of course, he couldn't make it because in the United States, you cannot win the election if you are an independent. You have to be either part of the Democrats or the Republican. But because of his idea of anti-COVID, anti-vaccine, anti-China, all of these things works well with Donald Trump. So when Donald Trump won the election, he chose him as the director, as the secretary of the Department of Health, DHS. Alongside, of course, Elon Musk was chosen because Elon Musk was also a very conspirator person. So by Elon Musk, he dipped out, he moved on, then Jeff Kennedy stayed. So key things that he mentioned. One, he mentioned that ECDC is responsible for ruining the economy of the United States. He mentioned that the mandates they proposed, the COVID lockdown they proposed, did hurt the US economy. He didn't seem to be disagreeing with what they did. He just think that the way they did it was not okay, like it was wrong. In the end, then you add on saying that COVID it doesn't work, COVID vaccine is not good, those things. So, but at the same time, his administration, Trump administration, in their big beautiful bill, they allocated approximately $50 billion to rural America, and this money went on to support people in rural areas to ensure that they have access to healthcare, they have access to medical treatment. If you don't know, in case you don't know, the rural America, they have issues with things like diabetics. They have issues with things like cancer. They have issues with things like obesity, because they don't have access to food. They are farmers, most of them, but they don't really have like access to nutrition. And this goes from schools to hospitals to firefighter to police, communities. And in this area, they don't have access to nutritious grocery stores, because a lot of grocery stores in USA, they tend to be concentrated on mostly the coast areas, but also in the big cities like Chicago, DC, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And these people, despite paying living in an area that is cheaper, they don't really have much support. They don't get support from the government. So Trump administration increased the funding from 25% to 50%, which is from $25 billion to $50 billion. And this $1 billion budget is going to be 1 year, 5 years, and each year is going to be $10 billion. So hopefully we will see an increase in healthcare. We will see a decrease in hospitalizations and having more staff and having more support, hopefully. But then when he touched on the economic downside from this CDC, I felt something that was kind of correct. He mentioned that CDC needs to be reliable, needs to be held accountable for making COVID-19 policies, but they didn't really come up with an idea on how to handle the economy. Because you can be a good doctor, but if you're a good doctor but you don't know how the economy works, how to ensure that people not only are they safer, but also they are able to sort of sustain themselves, and there is no economic downside in the future. And the issues with the last administration is that if you were critical of the mandates, you will immediately be put into the category of conspiracy theory, even if you're trying to come up with an idea, right? So people who come up with an idea, who are thinking, this is not how it should be done. Can we hold China accountable? People asked if the US can send doctors to China and study COVID. The China refused, and Biden administration didn't really pressure much on China. And even after the COVID-19 was over, like Corona was over, we did not really put a price tag. Thankfully, the new administration, Trump's administration, has actually allowed American cities and states to sue, to file a lawsuit against China for hurting the U.S. economy. And if that lawsuit goes through, China could be hit with a massive bill, and because they refuse to allow Americans to go over there and do research. And if something is global, is a global pandemic and it's affecting everybody, at least you need to allow people to come in and investigate what's happening. But China refused. So by refusing means it means they may have done it on purpose. Maybe they developed COVID in a lab to hurt the U.S. economy. I'm not trying to be like a conspiracy theory here, but why did they refuse to allow not just the US, but also other countries like France which are known to have the best medical system in the world, they were refused. Cuba has the best. Cuba went to Russia to rescue Russians in COVID-19. That's how wonderful they are. Cuba has the best medical system, but China refused. China refused to have these medical professionals go over there and study. And the COVID mandates did not. It was supposed to be, to me, I think it was supposed to be different from each country, and I think that COVID also was supposed to be different from each individual. I think people from Africa are not the same thing as people from the United States, not the same thing as people from Europe, people from China. We're all different. I can tell you because when I go to Africa, I have to take some medicine. I have to take some COVID shot. That's because the environment over there is different. But we all got the same COVID vaccine, which doesn't make sense. And that's because we have to follow China, what China does. So the JFK Kennedy, his argument was that his CDC needs to be reliable, and because of that, he fired the most people in his administration, and the people that he fired were actually medical professionals, which is kind of scary because he himself, he doesn't have any background in the medical system. He doesn't have any medical experience, so he's just making his assumption based on like Trump's assumption, or like my assumption, which is economics, a business, right? So these things are getting tougher, they're getting harder. It's harder to, because I believe there was no negotiations between the economists, policymakers, and the medical professionals. I think we kind of, the government puts much power into medical professionals, but these medical professionals, they don't have really a good understanding of how people interact. We could have come up with an idea on how to solve these problems, but they really kind of push these people behind. They want to do everything by themselves. So his point that he was that, his CDC made a huge problem. They ruined the U.S. economy. They ruined the world's economy. Africa was affected. Europe was affected. Middle East was affected. Asia was affected. And us Americans got affected. Though we got some paycheck, I call those things like a bribing. They bribe people to shut up. But the world got affected because of the CDC, and because it's such a widely legitimate organizations. They're supposed to have. They're not supposed to focus on medical only. They're supposed to focus on how people can work and do and continue to be careful with the COVID-19 or the pandemic. But SCDC was like, stop working, don't go anywhere, stay inside, but we don't know how we're gonna survive. We don't know how we're gonna eat. Like they just told us, just sit down and do nothing. But how are you gonna eat? How are you gonna survive? Right? So created all this huge recession that we are in today. Jobs have been affected. China was still selling stuff. We were still buying things from China, so they made money. We did not. Companies were shut down. Companies that opened up, they were fined by Trump administration. They were boycotted, right? They were punished. And these policies do indeed hurt the US economy. And I think RJF Kennedy, when he mentioned that, I kind of thought about it. As an economist right now, yes, we cannot change anything, but now realized how much these things they are hurting the US economy and they are hurting American people. But overall, they sent $50 billion to rural America. I made a video last couple weeks about the Medicare, the economics of Medicare, and the fact that they are putting the money into the rural America is fantastic. I think it's great. Not the best, but they are trying because it's 50%. Previously was 25%. So, which is 6% of the budget. So that was it for today. That's all I have for today, and thanks for watching. Like always, have a good night. Ciao ciao.